Hey, what's up, blue collar business owner? Welcome back to the Blue Collar Prosperity Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Maskill, where we focus on helping guide you to have a prosperous blue collar business. Today, we have with us Charlie Felker. Charlie is a former home service owner and operator and co founder of Free to Grow. Their mission is a 24/7 AI voice solution tailored for your home service business. Free to Grow ensures you never miss a sales call again. So, that is Charlie Felker. Welcome, Charlie. Thank you so much for being here. What's going on today?
Oh, good to see you again, man. Thanks for having me on and excited to talk about this.
Yeah, likewise. As we were talking before the show, obviously AI is everyone's talking about AI. Everything's AI powered. There's AI everywhere. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation to just kind of cut out the noise and really get a good
Yeah.
idea of what's going on in the AI voice. So before we
Yeah.
jump into all that, give our listeners just kind of a quick backstory of how your journey in the trade started. You went from owner operator, now co-founder of Free to Grow. How did that all transpire?
Yeah. So I was quick little storyline here, history. I was in the Army for a while, got out in 2011, and then went back to school. And then around 2013, kind of dipped my toe in a home service business. We did aging in place modifications, stair lifts you see up and go down, your parents' home or grandparents' home, and built a nice business. I'm in St. Louis and bought a similar business in Buffalo, New York. Ended up coupling those together and selling them to a strategic buyer in 2019. So 2019, I get bought out and I'm kind of looking for my next chapter. And I was like, man, what going through the sales process, you're like, what could I have, done to maximize earnings and cash flow and all this stuff? And because typically those two are important ingredients for any sort of successful exit. And I'm like, man, I really didn't need my full-time CSR, right? I was about a $3.5 million business. I needed somebody to answer phones and schedule and book and stuff, but it wasn't 40 hours a week. It was 20 hours a week. So Free to Grow was born, right? Off of that kind of frustration. So we went out and basically built a team of kind of outsourced fractional CSRs, doing just that, answering phones, working within a client's CRM, a Service Titan, House Call Pro, and inbound, outbound, and kind of like a white glove CSR business. Um, Built that up. Had about a team at one point, about 16 CSRs, so a nice little business. We were, working with people just like me, owner operators from kind of a variety of trades, predominantly focused on HVAC, plumbing, electrical, garage door. We had some big franchises we supported, but there's certainly problems. The human aspect of it, CSRs coming and going, and clients coming and going, and it just got tough. Like we'd have cyclicality. The home service owner operators would really need us. February, March, the busy season. They'd be like, well, we got to bring on Free to Grow because our call volume is going to pick up, and then October, November, kind of this time frame, things would slow down and we'd lose business and then go back up, and it just was clunky. And so this past April, so 6 months ago, whatever it is, we heard a AI voice recording on a Facebook group chat. I forget exactly what it was, but my partner Nathan called me and we're like, "Holy cow, this is going to be the future, and this could possibly be the kind of the anecdote that we needed to fix our scaling issues, right? Any sort of cyclicality. We felt like if we could build our own product, it'd be great. And so what we did is we reached out to our now CTO, Jerry Yee, who had built his own language model, and said, Jerry, you're a smart guy, you're Ivy League educated, machine learning guy, you know the technology, you know how to introduce new product, et cetera. Well, Nathan and I have been living and breathing in home services for the past 5 years. Why don't we just call this a marriage and go to market together? And so that's what we did. We essentially acquired his intellectual property and said, look, you go keep building this thing and let's get it humming. And Nathan and I will, go sell this and do podcasts and meet, influential partnership groups and affinity groups, and let's just make this thing a company. And so, in April, we went to all of our clients and said, like it or not, we're shifting over to AI voice in May. Okay. So we went from 16 CSRs down to one. It was tough. Okay. But haven't looked back. Half our clients ended up leaving us. They said, yeah, you're too early. AI is not really going to be here. And even though we assigned a dedicated testing number, all the companies that left us, not one of them tried the test account. Okay. So they're just like, you know what? Nope. I like my CSRs answering the phone. I'm not buying into this AI thing. Have a nice day. Bye-bye. But the half that remained have become absolutely kind of evangelical, for lack of a better word, of what this product can do, and have stuck with us and are great. And certainly we've made up all the business that we lost, but it was April, May, and parts of June were tough because we went from a very human-based outsourced CSR company to a software company in a matter of weeks. Saw the writing on the wall. And I think, we were talking before this, I think, the needle is moving, right? It's become less of a fringy thing and more of a, wow, this technology is getting pretty good. Can this replace my CSR and a lot of things? Answer, I think most people are finding is yes. The humanness of it's getting better, response times, functionality within given CRMs all getting better. And so I think we're a little bit vindicated. Not to say there's never going to be a need for, human CSRs to do certain things, but I think at some point here in the next 12 to 18 months, we're going to see kind of a one-to-one, replacement for a lot of those core tasks.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's kudos to you for just making that jump, because I know we've seen it over time. The Blockbusters of the world, they hold on too long. They're like, Netflix, that stuff's not big up. And then even Netflix is like, wow, we got to go from mailing DVDs to streaming everything online. We got to do it quickly. So
Yeah.
kudos to you for doing that and not being the last one standing, because I know that's a tough call to make to all the CSRs and a tough call to make to all the clients. Like, hey, like it or not, this is where we're going. So
Tough. Yeah.
now you've been doing this for, obviously call it 6 months, 7 months, 8 months.
Yeah.
You've probably learned a ton, seen a ton of improvements. With all the home service companies that you're working with, I'm curious, how are most people using? Because I know when it first kind of came out, people were like, no, we're just going to use it for overflow. We're just going to use it for after hours. We're just going to use it for weekends. And I heard you kind of mention it's starting to replace like the 8 to 5 daytime CSR. So out of all the clients you have, where do you see, most people at least using the AI voice to help support their company?
Great question. I still think that through probably now till March, I think most are going to try it out with after hours and overflow. I think it's a very relatively risk-free, try it before you buy it. Yep, we want to do this, Charlie, but let's try it this way. And, we can make updates for calls coming in at 1 o'clock in the morning versus prime time. I still think that's going to be kind of the dominant mentality. What we do see, especially for smaller companies, is let's say a CSR doesn't show up for work or quits or something. And, we've been working with a company doing after hours and overflow. And they're like, you know what, this is good enough. We're not going to bring somebody on. Hey, Free to Grow, why don't you guys cover down on more daytime coverage? I think that's kind of what we'll see. I do think, like you said, as it gets better and better, and it will get better and better, I just think there's going to be that, do I really need somebody involved, on my phones, inbound and outbound? Yes, there's always going to be, I think the CSR role may shift to other stuff within a given home service business, but that blocking and tackling, we're building our business to fully replace that kind of core CSR function.
That's
Because I
awesome.
think that's just a matter of time.
Yeah, and I love the idea. And didn't even think about it. I mean, obviously, we talked about after hours and weekends and overflow, but if your CSR doesn't show up, AI always shows up. So it's a great thing of like, hey, we got to flip it on today because Joanne, the CSR, called out today, and we need somebody to answer the phone. So let the AI voice grab it. So that's an awesome, additional mindset shift of, hey, we're always going to have coverage. So you mentioned it's going to get better and better. It does get better and better as it learns. What is kind of the process or timeline of, hey, you onboard a client? How long does it take that AI computer, whatever you want to call it, to actually learn the company, how they do things, how they talk? Like, how long does it take to kind of get that thing dialed in?
Yeah, it again depends on complexity, customized workflows. It can be as quick as 2 days. We're going to be investing heavily in our client onboarding. So we took our last, our most talented CSR, Gabrielle, and made her our head of client onboarding, because we think it's helpful to have a person that's been answering phones for home service for the past 20 years to know what a good call should sound like, and to be able to handhold a client that for the first time ever is having somebody other than a human answer their phones. Because there's still that walking in the woods with a flashlight, right? So that's going to be key. But we have onboardings as quick as a couple days, and then up to 2-3 weeks, even a month for these very complicated clients that have very detailed CRM integrations and workflows, and introducing outbound, and we have an advanced after hours suite that a lot of big companies like. It just depends. If a candidate or a prospective client reaches out and says, "Hey, I want to be up before lunchtime," can't help you. We don't want it. We want that more nuanced, because there are a bunch of these companies. I mean, there's some great companies out there that are doing what we're doing, that are a lot like us, like very focused and detailed and have their in-house teams. But there's a lot of new ones that we can get you up for $15 in the next 45 minutes. And it just, seeing what I know now about the technology, you're going to want to have somebody, because it's not perfect. The AI is not perfect, right? There's going to be glitches and tweaks and scripting, and every owner operator wants their phone calls and their CRMs monitored differently. Everybody, right? Everybody's different. So everybody's going to want their own little pitch. And that's a big part of our thing, is spending the time, having a couple onboarding calls. Let's create a demo account, try the demo account. Okay, good. It's how you like it. Let's get it into production. So anywhere, Paul, between 2 days, and we have a client now we've been onboarding for a month, but they're just a very big company, and they want things done almost, exquisitely and very specifically to them.
Gotcha. I mean, and if you think about it, if they're a complex company, that's how long it takes them to onboard a human, CSR as well, because it just takes time.
It's like, what would you do if you were hiring a person? What would you have them do? Right? It's the same mentality with us, with how we onboard for our AI.
Gotcha. And you had mentioned integrating with the CRM. So these AI voice answering services, bots, whatever we want to call these things, they're booking everything too, right? So they get the call come in, they're integrated to Service Titan or House Call Pro, and they're doing everything start to finish. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. For the most part, depends on, there's some CRM still that don't have an open API, and that's been tough, but that's few and far between. Most of our clients are on these bigger Service Titan, House Call Pro type CRMs, where yes, we can book it and then populate that client data, that call data.
That's awesome. So let's kind of get into the numbers side of things, because obviously people, when companies make these decisions of, hey, let's start switching to this, it's got to make sense from a numbers and sense standpoint of, hey, are we getting a good ROI on this? Do we not really need CSRs? What have you seen the impact? Obviously, CSRs are usually graded on, booking rate and how many missed calls they have or don't have. Obviously, AI gets every call. But what have you seen from an actual booking rate? Because I'm guessing that's a big hang up of a lot of people. It's like, well, Joanne, she just books everything. She's so good. She's got a personality. I just don't know if we can get that with AI. What have you seen across the board? You probably have enough data now to see, like, what are the actual call booking rates with AI versus humans?
Yeah, for companies that just want, name, number, email, and send them a message, maybe put the information, they're not quite as worried about booking rate because they want their sales team to follow up. It's a little bit different, but we'll have north of 50 to give you a good barometer. I'm putting a case study together for a big PE-backed, business that we're supporting, and our booking rate's north of 55-ish. I think the one hang up that I think this an important part of this is, some people can still tell they're talking to AI. Okay, let's think about your homeowner calling in for a service or to book an appointment. 50% right now probably have an inkling that this is not Paul Maskill, or this is not flesh and blood I'm talking to. Now, as the technology gets better, that number dwindles. But the hang up that we see, which makes this tough to get a true booking rate, is the general public still, I don't think, has a good understanding of how capable this AI is. So we'll tweak with our scripting, like, this is Paul, I'm your virtual assistant, I can get you booked in 90 seconds. And so we have some tweaks and stuff that improve booking rate. But yeah, I mean, without a doubt, the ROI is significant, especially when you're doing apples to apples with your after hours. I mean, call center, I don't know one person that likes their after hours call center. I've never met somebody that's like, I'm thrilled with my after hours coverage, right? And then let alone their inability to book and, consistently transfer that information to a CRM. So yeah, our big focus right now is we're going to be publishing. I've got 4 case studies in the works where we're going to be looking at booking rate for companies, in the 30 million range all the way down to $1 million range in revenue. And so booking rate's important, client satisfaction, delivered revenue versus what would have been lost if it was just the generic call center. And then the cost. I mean, the cost is far cheaper than having a full-time CSR. Far cheaper. So I think it's that combination of the end user, the homeowner calling in, getting more comfortable. Jobber just put an interesting study out that said, north of 50% of people are going to be okay right now, even if they realize they're talking to AI, if it's a quicker customer experience. They don't care, right? This thing still seems a little robotic-y, and they can kind of, people can pick up on stuff. They're okay with that as long as they get their garage door spring fixed, quickly.
Yeah, and I think I mean, this is the day and age where, we want things right away and we want them done right away. Like Amazon has accelerated that to everyone, instant gratification. If I order something on Amazon today and it doesn't show up today, I'm upset. Whereas 7 or 8 years ago, it's like, oh, free Prime shipping is 2 or 3 days. Now it's 2 or 3 hours. So everybody wants it now. And you had mentioned, that it'll announce, hey, this is Paul, your virtual assistant. Have you tested, and I'm just curious, like what do the numbers look like, or what do the responses look like if they announce that they're a virtual assistant versus if they don't say anything and they just answer the phone normal?
Yeah, we've gone both ways. I mean, we have an HVAC client in Alabama that said remove that, and then our booking rate went up. So it was just introducing itself as Paul, right? And then we have clients that, don't want to muddy the waters because they feel like they're going to agitate people if people figure out that they're talking to AI at some point in the conversation, and it wasn't introduced that way.
Gotcha.
So there's definitely still sensitivity in our end because, clients like, look, I introduced it as digital assistant, and that's the way we're doing it. We're going to do it. I think ultimately here soon, booking rates will be higher without introducing it as a digital or virtual assistant.
That makes sense. So
Yeah.
just curious again, because I've never used one of these and I've never called a company that has one yet. Do you have clients, or do you see people offer the caller the option, at least during the day? After hours, probably a different story, but say it's during the day. Do they have the option of, like, if you want to talk to a real human? Do you guys do any of that within your?
Yep, we hear those calls all the time, and it's what the AI will do is what we're coaching it to do is try one time to book the call, tell the person we can book it within 90 seconds. We can get this information and schedule a technician, all that stuff. But again, and some people say I still want to talk to you. I just think there's still an element of the population, not their fault, that just don't understand that this is probably more capable than the person you're about to get transferred to booking it quicker, right? I mean, I ran my own home service company. There's some great CSRs out there, but I've seen a lot of calls, and we used to have our own team of CSRs sitting in a building, and they're fumbling with paper and they're toggling back and forth between Service Titan and whatever website they were just looking at, and messing around with all this stuff, and 4 minutes later they get the call booked, where we're seeing some of those call times almost be cut in half. It's certainly more transactional. There's no warm and fuzzy about the weather or the football team, but it's just a quicker experience, hands down.
That makes sense. So as these virtual assistants, AI bots, start taking over, say, full-time CSRs, what have you seen? Because I know you kind of alluded to it earlier of, one of the worst conversations to have as an owner is say, Charlie, sorry, you don't work here anymore. And it's even harder to say you don't work anymore because the computer took your job. So what have you seen some companies do to kind of maybe turn those CSRs into, some sort of different role, maybe more revenue generating? Have you come across it yet where companies like, what, we're going all AI, but we still want to keep, Joanne as an employee, just not answering the phone anymore? Have you seen anybody repurpose those CSRs to other roles?
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to be, you get these big companies. I don't think they're going to go from 40 CSRs down to 1 overnight. I really don't. I think there's going to be a gradual phasing, and that's probably the right thing to do, right? Let's start with after hours and adjust that, and then let's take our talented CSRs and maybe make them project managers or, quality assurance. If somebody really wants to talk to a person, there's always going to be that need. I mean, there's always going to be roles and responsibilities, whether, if it's truly talented people for middle managers, project managers, estimators, sales, quality assurance, outbound. Certainly, there's always going to be some sort of need. Um, you know, uh, Billing and collections, following up on AR. I mean, all that kind of stuff. There could be, you know, offshoots too. I just think the core, answering, booking, even on the outbound stuff, which we're starting to get into, there's going to be that's just not going to be here. It's going away imminently.
Yeah.
Uh, I
And
just don't know. Every company's going to handle it differently. I mean, we see some that just rip the Band-Aid off and do it right away. We have, a big client that's about to, reduce his whole call center, which he owns, um, for this. So it's just going to be variable.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think to your point, at some point, consumers are just going to be like, that's the norm, right? We call in, talk to an
They're
AI
going to be,
assistant, they get it
yeah,
booked. Like I equate it to like making reservations at restaurants. Like at one point we had to call the place, and then the resis and the open tables came along like, oh, this is really cool. And now there's ones where it's like you just click on this thing and it calls the restaurant for you and it books it and you get a
yeah,
text message saying, hey, your reservation's booked. Like it's
yeah.
getting easier and easier and easier. But at some point, people are like, no way, I'm going to book this online. I got to call and talk to a human. Obviously it's trending in that direction as the next generation comes through as well. So Matt, I would say kind of,
Answering technical questions, like the ability to answer, look up manuals and answer technical, like we're doing that for a manufacturer of medical equipment. It's kind of unrelated, but we can download manuals and AI can surf those manuals quickly and provide, troubleshooting feedback quickly. You know,
yeah,
good good luck having somebody do that within half an hour on a phone call. Um, it's very much a game changer on some of those technical issues.
it really is. And it's, again, not related, but I was listening to someone speak and he's like, if you've read 500 books in your life, you've probably retained, I don't know, 0.5%, 1% max
Yeah,
out of all that stuff.
yeah,
AI's
yeah,
read every book ever known, ever out there, and it remembers all of it. So you just go
yeah,
there and it's like, it
yeah.
knows everything. So it is wild. So I guess that brings kind of starting to wrap this up. What is the future of this? Because this thing's moving quickly, it's accelerating quickly, it's growing exponentially. Specifically with AI voice in the home services, what do you see? I know we've kind of talked in and around it, but like magic eight ball a year from now, what do most home service
Yeah.
businesses look like from a call answering voice standpoint?
So I think we're sitting here. I think less than 5% of home service companies are doing this right now. Okay, that's just my gut. Um, I think this time next year, let's call it Thanksgiving 2025, um, that number is going to be north of 50. Okay. And I think competitively, I think it's going to settle in just like CRMs, right? When there was that huge spurt of CRMs, I think you're going to get, and there's some great companies like, Zyras and Avocas. There's other companies doing very similar stuff than we are. Um, I think you're going to have your handful of kind of white glove will work with you, build you customized workflows, work with, get this thing answering phones like you want them, getting the information in the CRM like you want it, dispatching like you want it, doing outbound calls like you want it, et cetera. But I think the needle's gonna move, especially I think this winter, things are starting to slow down. People are gonna start to hear about other people doing it and move pretty quickly. Um, so I certainly think end of this year, spring, there's just gonna be this big movement. And I think it'll be like competitive landscape. I think it'll just be like CRM. I think you're gonna have, your 5 to 10 CRMs that do AI voice a little bit differently, and everybody's kind of found their little niche and their opportunities, and that's kind of what it's going to look like, in my opinion. Um, so it's not going anywhere. There's definitely data now. I mean, we'll be publishing some case studies with 4 of our bigger clients on booking rate and book sales and all that. So that's like starting to happen. And I do think we've talked about this. I know some of these CRMs are going to try to do it. I I think it's much easier to say we're going to do AI voice than to actually go out and do it. And own your own model and update your own model and take angry phone calls from clients at 7 a.m. saying there was a glitch or, the AI needs to tell people it's $3.99, not $2.99 or so. That's just that we're still working with owner operators here who are very sensitive to the dollar and their marketing dollars and evals. And so I think having that nimbleness and responsiveness that, is just an AI voice company, because there's enough there that you're going to have to manage to get it right, or you'll be out of the job. So
Awesome. We'll have to have you back a year from now and see if your prediction was correct.
I might be wrong. If I'm right, it'll be good.
Awesome. And maybe you'll be wrong, and maybe it's even more than 50%. But we'll definitely see.
There's still gonna be mom and pops, Paul, it's the owner and his son or something that are just gonna want to answer their phone forever. So and that's a big part of home services. So I don't think that segment may ever do it, and that's fine. But
and those are the same people that still don't use CRM software either. They've got
got
a calendar, they got a phone, they probably have a home, they got a landline in their house.
Yep, and good for them if they're happy. So
exactly. So as we wrap this up, Charlie, I like to ask everybody, for all of our listeners out there, what's one thing they could do within the next 24 hours to move their business forward? Anything and everything, but we want them to be able to take immediate action, start moving their business forward. What's one thing that the listener could do within the next 24 hours to take action?
You'll appreciate this. I think people have to do a 13-week advance or forward-looking cash flow analysis. That was a big mistake that I made. I was so sales focused, but very few owner operators have a good understanding of cash in and cash out. Okay. And this certainly gets to AI voice because there's a reduction in payroll and all that stuff, but taking what you have coming in the door and then subtracting what's going out the door every week, and then every Friday you got to reconcile that and review it and update it. I think very few people have an appreciation of dollars in, dollars out. It's just critical. So
love it. All the AI voice talking, we get to cash flow at the end.
Yeah.
And that's, it is so true. So that's what I do for my clients. Every Friday, send them a 13-week cash flow projection, give them a nice graph. That's all I got to see. It's like, cool. We're going to be good within the next 13 weeks. And we know exactly where we're at. Because to your point, there's so many things that are happening that we don't know. And we don't want to be making decisions just off how much money's in the bank account today. Because there might be a bunch of money committed to our vendors, or we're owed a bunch of money and it's not coming in, whatever it is. But love that insight. Charlie Felker, thanks again for coming on the show, sharing your journey, and providing a ton of great insight, advice for all blue-collar business owners out there as we continue our journey to prosperity. Before we sign off, though, where can our listeners go to keep in touch with you, learn more about what's going on with Free to Grow, and reach out to you that way?
Yeah, we got a great website, free. It's free-to-grow.com, free2grow.com. We've got a trial number on there. You can try it. We're just unveiling this new advanced voice. Actually went to high school with Sam Altman of OpenAI, so we've been communicating back and forth a little bit with him and kind of getting some previews of what's coming. So it's been exciting. So yeah, we're here. Reach out. You could do a demo. I encourage. We got a great. My partner is our chief of sales, so he does a good demo, and we can set that up quickly and give you a better sense of how it'll sound. But free2grow.com. We're here. Our team. We got. It's myself and Nate, our sales. We got 2 really good developers. We're bringing on a 3rd developer, and we've got this great client onboarding team that can kind of walk you through onboarding.
Awesome. Go there, guys. Free-to-grow, the number 2, free2grow.com. There's a number there you can call and just you can talk to an AI voice assistant and see how it is. Charlie, thanks again for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Good to see you again.
And before we go, as you know, there are a lot of moving parts when it comes to creating consistent positive cash flow. However, the journey starts with making sure you are priced right so you can have a growing and more profitable business. I've created a super easy to use pricing calculator for everyone in the trades. You will no longer have to guess what you should charge. You'll no longer have to call around your competition and see what they charge. This calculator is easy to use and will provide you confidence and clarity that you're actually priced right. It also comes with a step-by-step PDF guide and a video walkthrough. So head on over to thebluecollaradvisors.com/price. thebluecollaradvisors.com/price to download it today, and so you can start implementing it tomorrow. Until next time, remember, what got you here won't get you there if you are ready for different results. It's time to start doing things differently.